So it's a very different way of looking at DNA. I didn't know what we would find. It was a 12-year-long research project that began when I was an engineer during the last years of the Cold War. And it was intentional for me. I thought, if we were going to find a principle that transcends our differences, that would help us maybe never have this kind of war again, where would we look for that principle? Are we going to look in a book or on a rock? And I said, let's look into life itself. Of course, in the 80s, we didn't know about DNA, what we know now, so it's taken that long. It's an ongoing project. The code exists in many layers. Each layer has its own code to unlock that layer. It's whoever put this there wanted to make sure we understood really clearly how this works. So I've had to work with a team of geneticists, linguists, historians, translators, because I'm no expert in those fields. I'm taking what I do know to bring it together, and then they are validating or clarifying or showing me where it's wrong or where we're thinking about things wrong. So in a nutshell, the message in all life, God eternal within the body, says to us that we're perhaps greater than we've ever imagined in the past. We're part of a greater presence, and that we're empowered to transcend the laws of physics. If we're God within the body, why would we be bound by the laws of physics, or why would we be bound by the laws of biology? Those are relative laws. If we're God within the body, and it has nothing to do with religion. From my perspective, this is purely information, empowering information, helping us to understand who we are in the world. As we see the belief systems falling away that have led us into the 21st century, my feeling is that a new belief will have to be in place to support who we are and what we do believe. And I can imagine nothing greater than understanding that we truly are empowered to love and care for one another on almost infinite terms, and that we transcend the limits that we've believed in the past. And what a beautiful place to begin a new belief system in terms of who we are. So I'm very passionate about this work. I left a successful career in defense and aerospace to pursue this, and all the other work supports this in some way. But the bottom line is it's just about helping us to become hopefully who we are and create a better world. The book was sent out for review. The God Code book went out for review. It went to clergy and Catholic traditions, Protestant traditions, Native American, Islamic, Mormon Church, across the board. And they are very different from one another, obviously. All the feedback that we got was that they believed that this work supported their tradition. And to me, that was a beautiful sign that we've cut through the distortions to something that's true. The bottom line is that for all those traditions, is we are here on purpose and we're part of a greater existence. And that's what this message says. The details that have developed over the centuries and the distortions, we look past those. Yes, I've seen a change. It's so huge, sometimes it takes a while to sink in. I was with some very serious European audiences, really serious note-taking audiences. Good people, really great people. I like to take my programs overseas first, and what I know is if I can express an idea clearly to a foreign audience through a translator, then I'll probably be able to do it well with our friends here at home. And so I asked a question. I said, what would it mean to you? What would it mean to find a message encoded into the cells of your body? And they were quiet just for a moment, and the Europeans said, well, Greg, it depends on what the message says. You know, and I'm saying, we haven't got that far yet. I'm just asking you, what would it mean if it was there? Not what does it say, but the fact that the message is there, what would that mean? It's such a huge concept. And the idea of somehow creating letters of the alphabet out of the sticky, gooey, protoplasmic stuff that we're conditioned to think of as life is a disconnect for a lot of people. But it's all based in numbers. Western science, our science today, describes all life as the elements of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Those are words. And there are numbers that go with those that we can describe on the periodic table. Ancient texts did exactly the same thing. They described life through words, and what we know now is for every one of those letters in the ancient alphabets, in every alphabet, there's a very precise numeric link, and those numbers are what match the scientific way of knowing. And if it sounds complex, it's my inability to make it very simple, because it's so eloquent and it's so beautiful and it's so simple and it's right there. And all we do is follow the instructions in a 5,000-year-old text, use our science and some computers, and there's a message in the DNA. And we'll see where it goes from there. When I was an engineer, what I found was that engineers felt that they were left out of the conversation of spirituality. And because the language made no sense to an engineer. And I read a little book, it was a workbook called Awakening to Zero Point, in engineering terms to describe what's happening, what I saw happening in the late 1980s. And it caught on and was Xerox copied and ended up becoming its own book and its own phenomenon. And it described what we knew then. And for the most part, it's pretty accurate. There's some things that have changed. The bottom line was that within the changes that we are all feeling in our lives, as we look for reasons, say, what in the world is going on? You know, what's happening with the weather? What's happening? It seems like everybody's going to war. What's happening with my body? I don't sleep the way I used to, or my relationships have gotten really intense. As different as those all seem from one another, they're all related. And what we know is that technically, and when I was a geologist, I could see this happening. The magnetic field of the Earth is in decline. It has been for the last 2,000 years. It looks like a chart on the New York Stock Exchange on a bad day. It's started declining. It's never gone back. So we're at the lowest point in planetary magnetics now that we have been in the last 2,000 years. We have seen Earth have this experience in the geologic record. We've seen this happen at least 14 times in the last 4.5 million years. And every time it happens, it precedes a flip, a 180-degree reversal of the magnetic field. So they get weaker and weaker. The magnetic fields decline. They get weaker and weaker and weaker until they drop to zero for a period of a few days, it looks like. Then the field reverses, and what used to be North Pole is South, the South Pole becomes North, and the fields begin to get stronger and stronger and stronger. The last time this happened looked like it was around maybe 9 to 11,000 years ago. At that time, we saw the melting of the last ice age. A lot of people believe Atlantis was here during that time, and as the ice melted, oceans rose, and that's why we don't see the continent of Atlantis anymore. There's a whole program we could do on that. We know that those fields are declining. We know that's a fact. The scientists have believed that it's linear, that you can know where it was 50 years ago and know where it is today and draw a straight line and say this is where it's going to be. Based on that, they say it's about another 2,000 years before we go into a zero reversal. We know, however, that it is not linear. It's what's called a geometric decline, and what that means is that as the field declines, it declines quickly. Ancient calendars point to our time in history, the Mayan calendar, the Egyptian calendar, native oral traditions, both in North, South America and the Tibetan traditions. They all say that something is happening at our time in history, and this is when time as we know it changes, and that the Earth as we know it changes. So scientists only within the last couple of years, mainstream publications have now admitted, they say, yes, we are in the early stages of a magnetic reversal. We don't know what that means. What we do know is that we're linked to those fields. Our emotions, our sleep patterns, our perceptions of time and space, how we feel about our relationships, our immune response, all those things are linked to the magnetic fields of the Earth, as well as the weather patterns.